former Republican Delaware Senate candidate Christine O'Donnell is back in the news, promoting her new book, Troublemaker. Let's do what it takes to make America great again. The Tea Party candidate became a favorite media punchline last year when her politically incorrect confessions about witchcraft and masturbation surfaced from the 1990s.
We need to address sexuality with young people, and masturbation is part of sexuality, but it is important to discuss this from a moral point of view. The Bible says that lust in your heart is committing adultery, so you can't masturbate without lust.
To O'Donnell's surprise, the media still wants to talk about sex.
I'm about to ask you a question I don't ask most of my guests, I have to be honest with you. Do you still think masturbation is wrong?
Oh, let's not even go there.
Why? You went there?
Well, again, like I said, I address it in the book. And again, I go into detail about where I was at that time in my life and why I chose to go on that show and do that interview.
No, sure, I get all that. But, I mean, your views on sex and stuff are relevant if you're going to be a politician.
Well, they're not, because there aren't laws outlawing sex. And if there are, they should be on the local level, as I make the case for local control as opposed to federal control.
O'Donnell, who's of course not related to Lawrence, ended up walking off the set of that interview because she said that Piers Morgan was, quote, creepy, and that he had these creepy questions that felt like, quote, borderline sexual harassment. She talked to the Today Show this morning.
He throws it in there in the middle of these sex questions that he would not ask with a man. But then he goes into a personal nature and starts prying. Imagine if Bill Clinton were there. Would he ask him, do you still hang out with Monica Lewinsky? Come on, we talked about it in the 90s. Do you still have that fascination with cigar bills? Come on, what's wrong with this? No, and if he did ask a male former candidate that, the outcry would be that it belonged on pay-per-view.
Now, I am no fan of Christine O'Donnell's policies, but does Christine O'Donnell have a point? Is there a double standard applied to female politicians, especially when the subject is sex? Last month, Tim Pawlenty's top advisor said that Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann would be tough to beat in the Iowa caucus because she's, quote, got a little sex appeal. Former Governor Sarah Palin called a photograph of herself in running shorts on the cover of Newsweek a sexist and out-of-context photograph. And of course, Hillary Clinton had to contend with these in every novelty gift shop when she ran for president. Joining me now is Jennifer Lawless, the director of Women and Politics Institute and associate professor of government at American University. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, how are you?
I'm really excited, actually, to speak with you. I teach your book about women running as candidates in my class. And so when this reemerged in the context of Christine O'Donnell, I thought it would be really fantastic to have this conversation with you.
Well, thank you for having me.
So let's start with Christine O'Donnell. Is she right? I mean, is this fair? Was she, in fact, getting a set of questions or having those questions asked of her in a way that was different than a male politician?
I don't think so. And the reason I don't think so is twofold. First of all, part of the reason she became a national political figure was because of those kinds of statements and because of her widespread appeal. And as a result, anything in the book is fair game. Second, she went on the show to promote the book. And so I think it's a little disingenuous to say that she was treated unfairly when she was garnering the kind of publicity she needed for a book tour.
So let's leave Christine O'Donnell alone for just 1 second, because after all, she didn't actually hold office. But there is another person who has a kind of similar narrative, and that is Sarah Palin. And Sarah Palin made this kind of striking comment that Democrats would, if they had an opportunity to do it again, vote for Hillary Clinton rather than Barack Obama. Is this a sisterly feminist appeal on Sarah Palin's part? Is she saying something about the quality of women's leadership? Or is this really just sort of an attack on the incumbent president?
I think it's probably the latter. I could imagine her making a similar statement even if Hillary Clinton had not been the second choice in the 2008 election. We know that Barack Obama's approval ratings are low. We know that congressional approval ratings are low. We know that people are frustrated with the status quo. So I think that the Republicans, in an attempt to distance themselves from the Democratic status quo, are even trying to get Democrats to think about alternatives.
Sure. Now, that said, In the same class where I teach your book, I also took a week where the students, mostly young feminists, by the way, mostly self-identified as feminists, read both Hillary Clinton's autobiography and Sarah Palin's first book, her first autobiography. And even though most of them disagreed with Palin's policy positions, they actually found her life story to be pretty compelling. Is Sarah Palin actually a good feminist role model? Is there something we ought to learn from her in the context of women in politics?
Well, there's no question that she opened up the political process for women. She was a mother with young children. She started out at the local level. She was the mayor of a very, very small town, and she was able to climb her way up very, very quickly. And so I think she demonstrated that you don't necessarily have to be part of the political establishment to succeed in politics. And that in and of itself is very attractive, especially to younger generations.
You know, I have laughed sometimes at the thing I like best about Sarah Palin and even Christine O'Donnell is that, like the men who preceded them, they didn't wait to be perfect to run for office. I mean, again, I am not, as a progressive, Democrat for the most part, not in agreement with their policy positions, but I do find it interesting that they have this kind of audaciousness about their willingness to go ahead and run for office, sometimes office much higher than what they appear to be qualified for on paper. But I know that in your research, you actually often find that women are very reluctant to run for office. How do you square, on the one hand, the reluctance of women who have great capacity and skill, and the sort of audaciousness, on the other hand, of these women?
That's a great question. Richard Fox and I surveyed and interviewed about 4,000 women and men who on paper look the same: lawyers, business leaders, educators, and political activists, and asked them about their interest in running for office. And we found that women were significantly less likely than men to self-assess as qualified to run. And what was even more interesting was that women who didn't think they were qualified to run didn't think about running. Men who self-assessed as unqualified to run still had a pretty good chance of throwing their hat into the ring. So I guess in a way, the Sarah Palins of the world are helpful in that they're demonstrating that unqualified women, too, should have political ambition. But I think we can always find examples of women who are willing to put themselves out there. It's just important to realize that Sarah Palin, Hillary Clinton, Nancy Pelosi, these famous faces obscure the reality that 83% of the members of Congress and 44 of the 50 state governors are still men.
Jennifer Lawless with the Women in Politics Institute. It's really, I think, important for us, in a week when we're seeing, for example, Gloria Steinem's new documentary and all of this, for us to pause and ask, what do we mean when we say we want to see more women in politics? So I appreciate this conversation with you.
Thank you.